Okay. I just want to see if you get the elevator skip here. Okay. Do you know about the elevator skip here?
No.
No?
I've never even heard of that.
Okay, it's just a cycle skip with the elevator. Like, you know how the elevator goes up and down during the scene. If you can mash through the text fast enough, you'll skip one cycle of the elevator going up and down. It's about 3 seconds worth. But it only triggers after the cutscene's finished. So, like here, if you were kick off playing this again. So, like here, you have Barrett walking back to Cloud. If you're just like a couple of frames earlier, the elevator will go straight down. It won't go up and down again.
And is that just mash faster, or are text box skipped at a specific spot?
It's just mash faster. Okay. You just got to get through all the text boxes within a certain amount of time, and you're pretty close to it already.
RPGs are traditionally huge, anyways, right?
Yeah, that's
now somebody told me that using attack right there is faster than letting them use their attack. Is that true?
Yeah, like you can either go using an attack is faster than going for change, because all you have to do is hold circle. And yes, the attack is faster than their attack. Like a Barrett attack or a Cloud attack is only a couple of seconds. Their attacks are like 5. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so if you get an attack off and you're able to escape before they get a turn, that's definitely faster.
That was pretty good.
All right, but we can get forward to Guard Scorpion. I think your Guard Scorpion's pretty good at this point. I think the only way you can really make this faster is to start counting damage for it. Do you want to know how I count damage for it?
Please, that's something I have to practice.
Yeah, okay.
I know I can do it, but I don't know that I can do that and talk to chat at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, it's pretty tough. What I do is basically you'll get, now if you don't, this is assuming you don't get any turns off first, you'll get 4 rounds of attacks before he raises his tail. That usually averages out to about 500 damage, roughly. And Guard Scorpion has 800 total. So the way I do it is if you have Cloud doing 90 damage and Barrett doing 35 every time, that would add up to 500 exactly. So rather than just trying to do the maths in my head constantly, like 90 plus 34 plus 88 plus 92 plus 33.
I think I see where you're going with
this. Rather than do that, what I do is if Cloud rolls higher than 90, then I add 500 to whatever that is. So like if he got a 94, I would go from 500 to 504 and just adjust it on the fly. And if Barrett gets, it's usually less than 35 because 35 is quite a high roll for him actually. But and I also adjust for Barrett the same way. So 35 is his normal. If he gets a 36, add 1. So that 504 would become 505. And if he under damages, then you subtract from it. If you get a first attack off before Guard Scorpion gets off his search scope, you just add the total. You just add the whole attack to the total. So if Cloud gets an early bolt and does 90, you'd be at 590 instead of 500. And then when he raises his tail, you'll know exactly how much damage you've done to him, and you're in a position where you can actually make where you actually know how many attacks you need to kill him, rather than just go for the full combo of Barrett attack, Cloud bolt, Barrett big shot.
So here's my question then.
Yeah.
When is it appropriate to use 2 bolts when the tail is up?
That's kind of tricky. Like when you use, if you're really under damaged with your damage rolls, like if you're sitting under 600, you're in a pretty bad spot when it comes to this fight. So you would be okay with using 2 bolts to try and get it back. With like a Cloud bolt and Barrett's big shot, you're looking at around about 200 damage. So you really want to get it to 600 damage total. So that's why we try and get the limit off before he raises his tail, because that way instead of 500 you'll be sitting at around about 615, and you're really comfortable. You don't even need Barrett's attack at that point, because a bolt does around about 90 damage. Barrett's big shot does 110 to 115. So that you're doing around about 205 damage on average with those 2 hits.
So you're getting 2 limit breaks off with Barrett during the fight?
Yeah, if you can, yeah, like when Barrett gets his limits before his tail raises and you use it straight away. Like, it kind of depends. It's really something you kind of have to do with practice and just learn to, like, when you learn to count. So you'll be sitting around about, if you're really bad, like if you haven't got any limits off, you'll be around about the 500 mark. If you do 1 bolt, that'll push you up to around about 540, 550 damage, and you need to do 250 damage in order to kill him in that point. And that's not possible with just a attack bolt big shot combo if you didn't get Barrett's big shot earlier. When you do get big shot off before he raises his tail, you're going to be sitting around about 610 to even higher than that maybe. At that point you only have to do around about 190 damage if you're at that point. So you can go with 2 bolts, and that will charge up Barrett's limit again, and you can lead off with bolt because you might high roll with a big shot. Sorry,
So
start
don't
off
try to
with big
do
shot.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, start off with big shot, because you might high roll and then that will just kill him completely, and you don't have to do the bolt, so that'll save you the time that way. Whereas
taking two tail lasers is still faster than going through the extra search scope.
yes, definitely.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Search scope is like, well, if you take an extra search scope, that's the full animation of the search scope, and then the full animation of whoever is doing the next attack to kill him. So that's 2 extra animations that you have to do, rather than just 1 where you casting bolt a second time.
Gotcha.
All right. So yeah, it's like you got 2 attacks off right at the start, you lucky bastard.
I'm just good like that. I'm just good.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever managed to pull that off.
It just happened to be in a PB too. I'll
Yeah,
never do
that's
that
right.
again.
I don't like I actually managed to PB earlier today. I started off going, it's like, I'm just going to do a run. I'm not going to worry about resetting to try and get a good time or anything. Start off 8 seconds in the green. Whole run, end of the run, PB by 20 seconds. It's like, I should just not try, hey?
Very nice.
Alright, so
there's something to be said about being relaxing with it.
yeah. Alright, so let's take a look at your preemptive app setup, because I know you've been struggling with that one.
Get out of here. Yeah, ever since it was weird. I used to get preemptive apps consistently.
Yep.
And then, ever since my movement got better in Reactor, my apps fell apart.
Okay, so yeah, you walk left all the way off the screen to start off with. You're just holding right on this part until you reach the top of the stairs.
Right, and then once I get to the top,
Yeah.
I release, run, and hold up left and walk until Cloud stops walking.
Yep.
And then hold cardinal direction left and run all the way to the elevator.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. I have a slightly different method. Basically, instead of holding up and left, I hold up and L1. Then hold up and L1 for this section until you stop. Then you keep holding L1. Move from up to up left, and that will stretch you down to this section here. And then at the turn, switch from up left to up right. And while you're holding L1 and up right after this, you will run straight into the elevator. You don't have to make any more adjustments.
Okay, so
so
go to the top real quick.
Go back to the.
Am I able to hit play?
I think you can. Hang on a second. Yeah, you can.
There we go.
Yeah.
So right here.
Yes.
What are you saying? Right here, I only have to hold upright and I'll automatically go in?
Upright and L1. That's actually back. Is this going to go back? No. Oh, that's right.
Walk this way.
So from this point onwards, this point onwards, upright and L1, and you'll run to the elevator. You don't have to make any other adjustments.
Okay, so hit the stairs, then just hit upright and hold L1, and everything will work itself out.
Upright L1. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
Huh, I had no idea. I'd been trying to navigate that myself.
Yeah, so that might be costing you a couple of fractions of steps there. That's the best.
Right.
Like, that method is the best way to do it because you will always have the same amount of steps for that section. And I don't know if you know how step count works with preemptives, but you need to have your step count on your step ID is what it's called. It needs to be on a specific value, and that's like, it's literally one walking step of distance. That's how much leeway you have for setting up preemptive apps. So even the smallest things.
It blows my mind that I used to get it consistently at all.
No, okay, so yeah, what you're doing is probably you probably found like some sort of your own setup which you managed to keep, and then you cleaned something up in your movement, and then that's thrown it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I was winging it and found my way and was getting it consistent, and then I learned the right way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it threw my step off a second.
Yeah, that's right.
So right there, you said I'm not supposed to press down anytime?
Yeah, well, I'll just watch the whole thing first. Okay.
Hope your weekend went well.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, for this section, I won't be able to show you the exact position, but basically you've hit down at this spot here. You just hold left until you, like, you've almost run the same distance, but you've run a fraction of a step down where you shouldn't, which is what's throwing you off, I think. So you just hold left until a specific spot. I can't show you, I don't have any screenshots of it available off the top of my head. Then
will Cloud be behind Jesse at that point?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, if you can take a look at like one of the PBs that me, Wally, or Camper have done, they should all be in the same position. And
okay,
there's like one position where Cloud is basically level with this like black and yellow striped thing. He's like right at the end of it, and then there's one more point, like one frame further to the left. If you get that, that's still okay. Just make sure you don't mess up anything else, otherwise you'll be too far off.
And then as soon as Jesse goes down and opens the door, you hold straight down, correct?
Yeah, that's it. Just hold down till you get to Biggs. Oh, that's right.
Okay, so I'm doing everything else right, just not talking to Jesse.
Yeah. So yeah, I know, like, yeah, the door has slightly shifted your position here as well, which I'm not sure if that's throwing your distance off or not, but that might be part of it.
But I wouldn't be hitting the door, so I know that means that I need to take an extra step from where I'm pressing down at, and I should talk to Jesse then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the door wouldn't be in my way.
That's right, yeah. And one more thing is, you look okay here, but just make sure after you talk to Biggs, you hold down until you get pushed through this door. Like, this wall will push you straight through, and you just hold down the entire time, and then you shift it down left. You need to hug this wall as close as you can. It's more this wall. It doesn't matter if you don't hug this wall perfectly, but this wall you do need to hug. And like, the best way to start off with is just hold down, let the wall push you, transition to down left straight away. You might stop on this guardrail here because there is a slight wall here.
Do I just tap like L1 or something?
Yeah, just tap L1. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you'll still be hugging the wall. Like, the game will push you slightly if you're far enough over, so you don't need to worry about getting it exactly, because once you get far enough down towards, the game will just push you.
And just to clarify, Jesse skip You mash through 2 text boxes, and then on the third one, run through the top of the train.
So when you do Jesse skip, the first there's 2 text boxes that come up at the same time. As soon as you've triggered Jesse skip, clear them both. Then there's one more text box, clear that one, and then you run up, go through the door and clear the third text box, which is the last one.
So did the 2 text boxes clear from 1 input, or is it 2 inputs?
From 1 input, as long as they're both finished scrolling.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Which I still didn't watch any of the movies.
And then as you hit the third one, you're running through the door.
Yeah, I will just have to. I'm going to slow this. Damn it!
I've pulled it off once, but it's been so long. I would think I'm very rusty.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I started learning, I pulled it off by accident as well. It's like, hey, I got it! Yay! What do I do now?
Right? That's how I feel every time I get a trick.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I just wanted to try it. I didn't expect to actually get it.
Yeah. Alright, so I'll slow this down to like quarter speed. Okay. So, yeah, we can pretty much see every frame at this rate. So, if you stop. Okay, so you're just going straight for it. I'll do a video on Jesse skip, or Sully also has a video on Jesse skip. You can watch that as well. I'm probably going to be doing this video sometime next week after I've uploaded this. And basically, you don't need to. Well, there's a couple of ways to do this. I'll just explain my way. Basically, you run down all the way to this point, and there's a few visual cues. One is when Cloud's knee is off screen, then that's when you can do a menu buffer to try and trigger Jesse skip. This is nowhere near down far enough. The visual cue I use is the hand above Cloud's head, which I told you about before. It'll be about 1 pixel. There'll be 1 pixel of black here. Teach me Mogster FF7 speedrun. Hey Jason.
What's up, Jason?
And yeah, so there'll be 1 pixel of black just below the second set of what are they, like handrails, golden, like these golden colored handrails. That's the right position where you need to be. All you have to do is hold down. You don't do left or right. Then open your menu, and then you do a menu buffer to make sure that all your inputs are on the same frame. It's the best way to. It's the easiest way to do it. It's not the fastest, but it's the easiest.
So you open the menu, close the menu, kind of like I was skipping the cutscene after Snake Skip, and then what do I hold to the right to try to talk to Jesse, or do you still hold straight down? So
when you have the menu open, you press X to leave the menu, and then after you've left the menu, hold down and right, X and circle. And you need to
hold circle. You don't have to press it afterwards.
No, you hold it. If you press it, it's not going to work because it's not going to be on the right frame. Basically, what happens is when the menu closes, the next frame loads and the game receives the input for the down, the right, the X, and the circle all at once, and that guarantees that you'll get Jesse skip if you're standing in the right position.
So is it possible when I hit the menu to just start holding down and right, and then hit X to exit the menu and roll my thumb over to confirm at the same time?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
I use 2 fingers. Like basically, I use 2 fingers for X and circle. Index.
I know my the way I hold my controller is really wonky. I know everybody tells me all the time.
Everyone has their own system, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah, it's basically like I press X and then thumb goes down on down right, and then my middle finger goes down on circle. And you have to be holding all those buttons down before the menu closes.
Okay, so when Cloud's knee is at the bottom of the screen, open the menu, hold down right, X, confirm, and if it works,
Hmm.
wait until both screens have populated the text.
Yep.
Press confirm. Next screen loads. Press confirm. Next screen loads. Run through the door. Press confirm.
Yeah. So yeah, you need to run through the door and close the textbooks before the next screen loads.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's about it.
In worst case scenario, you lose the amount of time it took to open that menu to attempt it.
Yeah, pretty much. You won't lose.
So it's kind of low risk.
Yeah, it's pretty low risk. Like if you get it wrong, you just you either talk to Jesse and you go straight into the cutscene, or you get pushed by the guard. And you don't talk to Jesse, at which point you have to talk to Jesse. You can try to get guard skip again, but it's not really worth it. If you want to sit and practice this to try and get a feel for where exactly the frame is before, you can go for a second attempt Jesse skip, but you have to run out of the carriage, through the door and back in. So it's not worth it in an actual PB run, but if you just want to practice that to get a feel for where the guy comes out, you can do that. He'll only come out once every time you've loaded the screen. So if you reload the screen, you can get another feel for it.
Gotcha.
Right.
And what if everything done perfectly? That saves 6 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, around 6 to 8 seconds roughly, depending on how long it takes you to set up. Like 8 seconds is when you have got the timing.
No menu, just go.
Yeah, no menu, just go. Like if your timing is god tier, you can probably save around about 8 seconds. But other than that, I think
the biggest trouble I have with the shop is the kid.
The kid. Oh yeah, you still pick up the ether here. So
Dude, and I'm a noob like that.
Yeah.
And that's the ether that can be skipped, right?
Yeah, that ether is the best one to take out of your route because it's the longest to pick up. It's about 15 seconds to pick that up. No tutorial. Nice.
Alright, mate. Whatever you're doing, have fun. Alright.
There we go.
Time to perform.
Alright, so let's take a look at your shop. Quick thing. As soon as the screen loads, mash circle. You don't need to use any directions to open the shop.
The shop will open by itself? I thought I had to face the guy.
Nope. The position that you're standing in when you load the screen is you're able to talk to him from there. So as soon as you enter, just mash.
That changes everything.
So and it's 3 dialogue boxes for him, and then he takes you into the actual shop menu. If you want to stay on your current route for maximizing, actually, you know what? I wouldn't worry too much about it, because if you're going to move to 4 ethers from 5, don't worry too much about it. But when you move on to 4 ether and 3 ether routes, if you're mad enough to try the 3 ether route, that's hideous.
That's Wally's run, right?
Yeah, basically Wally's the only one that's actually done it. I think Camper did it a couple of times as well, but he ended up going back to the 4 ether route because it's more consistent. 3 ether is theoretically faster, but in practice it's kind of horrible because you need to get like 5 limits before Motorball. Often you're in the boss fights. It's pretty horrible.
Oh, so that sounds like there's even more RNG involved.
Yeah, pretty much. You have to leave Cloud in the front row because he needs to take full damage from physical attacks to get more bravers off. It's not a very nice system. Like, I might try it, but we'll see how we go.
So 4 ethers is pretty consistent and safe.
Yeah, 4 ethers is consistent and safe. I think the best time to pick it up is when you're getting preemptive apps consistently, because that way you don't have to use any limits at all. If you don't get preemptive apps and you've dropped an ether, you're still fine. You only need to get off like 1 or 2 limits before Motorball, and you should be okay.
Okay.
Because yeah, like if you don't
So
get preemptive
when you
apps,
say use limits, you're meaning using a limit to replace a grenade?
yeah, that's right. So,
Okay, I understand.
yeah, so like if you get apps as a non-preemptive, the best way to do it to save grenades is Cloud uses Bolt first turn, Braver second turn, then goes to grenades, and the girls just use grenades for the whole fight. And you'll be short by 1 grenade. You'll be on 50 instead of 51 at the final shop, and you'll just have to use 1 limit. The other method that some people use is everyone uses grenades to start off with, then Cloud uses Bolt, then he goes back to grenades again.
So that's how I always fight apps anyways. I always go Bolt, Braver, grenades, and then everybody else use grenades. I never learned the other way.
Yeah, that's an older way. It's just a little bit of HP manipulation. It affects what turns that he actually does, depending on his HP. Doing that method ensures that he only uses his tsunami or tidal wave attack, whereas his other attacks actually have longer animations. They're pretty ridiculous how long they are. Yeah, shop looks good. Nice and fast. When you go into the 4 ether route, you need to pick up a couple of potions in reactor 1 for a bit of extra gil. You need to pick up...
Is that off the guards?
Yeah, so you can either pick up... The most optimal way to do it is to pick up 1 potion off the dead guard on the first screen, go into your fight, the first mandatory fight against the 2 guards. After you kill them, see if you get a potion off of them. If you don't, you can pick 1 up on the way out. After you've blown up the reactor, there's 1 more potion that you can pick up on the way out that you run past. You can pick up that. Or you can just pick up...
On the way down to the guards, right? Where they
ambush
you. Say run away.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Another way, which is like easier but slightly less optimal, but not by much. Pick up 2 potions off the dead guard at the start, and you'll be fine.
And then just sell all of those here.
Yeah, and then when you get to the shop, you can just sell all your potions, and then buy 21 grenades. And that's it. You don't have to sell everything else. It makes it slightly more efficient because you're selling all your ethers twice in this method. Like you sell all your ethers twice and you sell all your Phoenix Downs twice. Whereas when you just sell your potions, you sell all your ethers once and all your Phoenix Downs once. Makes it.
And that'll be at Aerith's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just after the cutscene at Aerith's house, yeah, that shop. We can skip this bit. This is my area of expertise. I was watching this earlier. Your guard skip was pretty good, I think.
I've got that down to a science. It's more performance for me than anything.
Yeah.
As far as the knowledge of how to do it, I've got that down.
Yeah.
It's actually the only trick in the game I'm very confident in my ability to do.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you can marginally improve this is just work on the timing for the amount of time that you have to run, like walk diagonally up to the left. That's about it.
Right.
Other than that, like if you get a bit of a more comfortable feel with how far you have to walk, that's a small improvement you can do. Other than that, that's a pretty good guard skip.
We'll get away with it though. It's good.
Have you looked into bar skip at all?
I looked at it because of the where it's at. It's difficult for me to practice it. So I know you can soft lock, so I haven't bothered trying it out yet.
Okay. Did you want me to go through it with you?
I can show you how to do it if you want.
Please, if you have the time.
Yeah, I'll just shift it. I'll pause this and I will...
Now, how much time does it realistically save?
About 10 seconds. 8 to 10 seconds. All right. So, bar skip. Yeah, okay. So, I'll walk through this step by step and I'll explain some common places where people soft lock this thing. So, step 1, talk to the girl in the toilet once, and then don't close this text box, and then talk to this guy. Talk to the guy that does the dressmaker.
Okay. Text box open, talk to the dressmaker.
Yep. After that, you'll have control of Cloud again. Run to the girl in the toilet, run up, then run down so that the door closes. There's no inputs, just the movement. Then mash your text boxes for a while until you see this text box. A tough looking guy like that. Once you see this,
Okay.
run back up, press circle, run down, and this guy sitting at the table here, you need to talk to him. The tricky part is that you can't see him because of this text box. So I can't even see him there. Can't even see him there. There you go.
So you know he's sitting at that bottom corner, though.
Yeah, you know he's in that bottom corner, the guy with the red hair. So you talk to him. This is definitely one of the bigger points where people make mistakes, like including myself. I have lost runs because if you don't talk to this person, then you talk to the girl at the toilet again, you will soft lock. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So talk to this girl, then talk to the girl again, and you can just mash until you get to this. Give her the medicine, then you press circle, hold that text box open, and then you run down to around about here, and then by the time you get to here, the second text box will load up as well. Then you put in your second inputs for selecting your dress. This is the second point where people make mistakes. If you have to close both of these text boxes at the same time. Now, the second one is a lot bigger than the first, so if you mash, you will close the first text box without closing the second one, and you can't finish this skip if you do it. You have to run out and start the whole thing again, because if you confirm once more, you will soft lock. I'll show you what happens. Now, when you close...
So if you confirm right here, you're soft locking?
No, you do confirm here, but you have to make sure that both text boxes have finished scrolling before you actually confirm.
Okay. You can't,
because
so if one's finished and you hit it while the other one's still loading, you're done.
Yeah, so the smaller text box is for the girl in the toilet. Once you close this, she gives you the sexy cologne, and you cannot close that text box. I'll show you what happens if you do, but you can't close that, otherwise you do soft lock. Now, when you close both of these, you get the sexy cologne and you finish the conversation with the dressmaker, and you run out. You have movement and you run out. You have everything. I think you can even go in the menu at this point. Okay, it doesn't even...
definitely looks like it takes some practice.
Yeah, you have to practice this. This is not something you can just start in a run. Like, you will screw it up. But yeah, like, you can even see in your key items, sexy cologne, you've got it. And you finish the conversation with this guy with the dressmaker. So from this point on, just run out. I'll show you what happens if you close this dialog box. I'm not touching anything. You cannot move at this point.
He's just trying to get the Sephiroth faster.
Yeah, no, what's happening is Cloud is trying to walk to the point that he's supposed to go to. Like, when you give her, when you finish giving her the medicine and she gives you the sexy cologne, Cloud is supposed to walk to a specific point. Let me just mute this Discord.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he steps to the side and then she walks away.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what the game is trying to do. The game is trying to return Cloud, to walk Cloud to that point, but it can't. The table's in the way, and there's no collision detection. Like, this doesn't have AI, it's scripted movement. So it's actually trying to walk Cloud to a position that he can never reach. And that's how you soft lock. That's one of the ways you soft lock. The other way is Aerith will try and run to Cloud. Like, if you miss the conversation with the redhead sitting at the table, the same thing happens with Aerith instead of Cloud. Aerith tries to run to Cloud because you've actually finished this conversation with the dressmaker too early. So Aerith tries to run to Cloud and you can't do anything to fix it. She's just constantly running into the table as well. But that's how
Gotcha.
That's how bar skip is done. Right, so...
Yeah, so I'll have to practice that one.
Yeah, that is definitely a practice one. Other than that,
It's not as difficult.
the rest is just movement. Optimization. Take a quick look at your apps setup. There we go. Tap.
There we go.
Yep. Alright. Oh, derp. Okay, so yeah, I mean this should be the same.
That big 10-minute PB, huh?
Yeah, the only what's it called visual cue I use is when Cloud's right foot hits the ground.
Okay.
So I release, his right foot hits the ground, and then I hit run again.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks fine. The step might be a little bit long.
Long?
Yeah, maybe just a touch bit long. I actually do the step in a different spot.
You're gonna save it for that big 10-minute PB, huh?
I do it.
Hold on 1
Let
second.
me just drop to half speed. No, actually, that step's probably fine.
So you think it's the reactor part throwing me off? The
Yeah,
pressing down
I'd say
towards
it's the
Jesse?
reactor. I do the step on the last bit, but it doesn't actually make a difference to where you actually do it, as long as you do it on the screen, obviously. But yeah, this screen looks fine. I think it's just the reactor that's throwing your step can out.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Back to
Do
full
you have
screen.
is there a fast, easy way to learn how to do
Thank you, sir.
the guards in Shinra HQ? Or does
Yes.
that also take a lot of practice?
Well, there isn't like a fast method, but there is like it requires a little bit of intuition as to how
How are you, buddy?
you actually approach the fight.
Treating you, man.
So guards, that's too far. Bad here.
And you all will back me 100%.
All right, so let's see how you do this. Oh, one thing I did spot though on this screen, don't run straight right. What you want to do is this screen doesn't have step count active before the guard fight, but it does have it active afterwards. So what you want to do is, instead of running straight right, run right until like only a couple of steps, then run down and right until you collide with the sofa, the top of the sofa, and then run right again, and then run down just a smidge so that you run straight at the guard at the bottom instead of what you're doing now, because that way you will run straight up to the guards and you're going to save a heap of steps by doing that.
Okay.
Because that is one thing that's setting your step count way back. So yeah, like normally you stop here. If you run down to the couch and then down a little bit further, you'll go straight to this guard's face, and then you can just.
So you run and hit the couch. Now, once you hit the couch, do you run off to the right side and then down a little further?
Yeah, so it's just down right to the top side of the couch. Hold right, and then just like tap down for a couple of frames, and then just keep going right. Like basically, you just want to run straight at the guard at the bottom.
Okay, and then after the fight, you'll be much closer to the elevator.
Yeah, and take the bottom elevator instead of the top one. I won't go into too much of the 60th floor because I think that's just going a bit beyond. Like that's trying to optimize the 60th floor is incredibly difficult. It's a kind of insane way to do the.
Is that the guards' 60th floor?
Yeah, that's running and sneaking past the guards.
Man,
yeah,
the
like
run killer.
Yeah, get more comfortable with guards the way you're doing it now, and then you can look into that later, I reckon.
Man, it's so frustrating. It's like an auto scroller. Like,
Yeah.
how do you?
Exactly.
An auto scroller constantly kills my runs.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know that I went fast enough there. That's game.
Okay, so this fight is when you actually really have to start like knowing you have to be thinking about where your enemies and your own ATB is. When you start this fight, you don't know the position of any of your enemies' ATBs. Now, when you start this fight, your ATB's actually in a pretty good position. You'll probably get two characters off before they get any turns. Like, probably, again, this is kind of like make the best decisions you can with the information that you have. Now, when you destroy a guard's armor, their ATB resets. So if we push further on, now you get a bit unlucky here, and this guy gets a turn off. So you now know where his ATB is at. It's at 0. So
I don't know that I went fast
what you do here is, so now Tifa's gone off. Her ATB is 0, and the blue guy's ATB is also at 0 now, because even though his ATB was charging before, his red armor gets destroyed, his ATB gets reset. And this guy is also at 0, and this guy, the guy at the back, you don't know where he's at. So you know roughly where it is. The next question you should be asking is, who should I attack next with a grenade? Not actually attack. Who should I grenade next? Now, the best situation is you've got two of your enemies at 0 ATB. So the next person that you should be attacking is the guy at the back, without question, because you will take off his attack, and I'm guessing he does actually get an attack the way you've done.
Yo, my friend was at the Mets game.
Because you've killed this guy, but you haven't really gained anything out of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, his ATB was already at 0.
Yeah, so you haven't actually, like, he's not going to get an attack off, obviously, but...
So in this situation, right, let's pretend like I entered the fight exactly how I entered this time, with both Cloud and Tifa almost full ATB.
Yeah.
Do I auto throw the first grenade and then hold the second grenade to see which guard attacks first, and then choose the one that didn't attack?
So for Tifa going first, you can just hold up and circle. It's a little risky because the red guard still might get a first turn in, but you can do that. It's what I do. I generally find that it is fairly reliable if you get, like, basically as close to full. If someone gets an ATB as close to full as possible, then that's a pretty reliable method to actually getting an early grenade off. And then, yeah, the second grenade, which is with Cloud, you can just sit and wait. There's no value to doing it early because the animations are still going off. Now, you get the second guard gets an attack off, so now you know he's at 0, and then you can hit the guy at the back instead. And then
Gotcha.
There's basically 2 schools of thought. There's 2 ways you can do this fight. The way that most runners recommend is whoever you get each character to attack one of the enemies, a different enemy. So like Cloud might do the first one, Tifa does the second one, Barrett does the third one, and then you just rinse and repeat. Cloud does the first, Tifa does the second, Barrett does the third. That's the most optimal strategy for when you use for when none of your enemies get a turn before you do. Realistically, it's a little bit better if you're probably going to take at least one attack. That is how the fight runs most of the time. So because his ATB is already at 0, the guards in their red state, their ATB fills up slower than when they're in the blue state. So I leave the red guys on red if they have an attack go off, and I kill the first blue guy instead. And then for the second round of attacks, so you would have, like, instead, this guy's got an attack off. The way I would do it was Cloud grenades the guy at the front, Tifa would grenade the guy at the back, and then Barrett would grenade the guy at the front. So we've got one blue guy and one red guy, and they're both on 0. They would both be in 0 ATB. And because this guy's ATB feels that much slower, like, everyone will beat him in a race. So what I would do next is Cloud Cloud will grenade the red guard to reset his ATB so he doesn't get an attack off. Then Tifa was second, so she would grenade the blue guy. It is a race as to whether or not you have a faster ATB than the blue states. Cloud and Tifa will usually win. Barret is less reliable. It's your ATB speed is determined off your dexterity. It levels up in a similar way to strength, like with Aerith.
Okay.
It could be higher, it could be lower. Barret's just less reliable, but generally Cloud and Tifa will beat a blue guy because Tifa is the only race that's actually going on is Tifa with the blue guy that stays alive with this method. Cloud will reset and he'll always beat this guy. Cloud will reset this guy's ATB, and then Tifa's in the race with the blue guy, and then Barret will get his turn, and he, as slow as he is, he will still beat the blue guy because he will already have ATB charged like a third to a half of the way. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds tough. But it makes
Yeah,
sense.
like it's if you just want to do a quick rule of thumb, you can just use like the method that most people recommend, where Cloud does one bit, Tifa does the second, Barret does the third, and they just keep the same, and that is still a pretty effective method. But you can take an extra attack that way because Barret's ATB speed is just rubbish.
I would ask if you ran into him, but that's a
Right.
stupid question.
Guards is guards. That's pretty linear. There is I did take a look at it. There is a faster method that you can use. I wouldn't recommend you pick it up straight away. Basically, it's
Okay.
kind of
Yeah, that's a
horrible.
chill weekend.
No, which one now?
I'm ashamed of myself.
Sneaking past the guards. Sorry, sneaking past the guards. This strategy here. There is a slightly faster
I know
method.
there's a perfect timing where you can just run and then mash, but it takes a lot of setup, and
Yeah. So
if you're off at all, you just lose.
yeah, basically. So come on, load. There we go.
Shouldn't be
Right, so the way the 60th floor works, the reason why I tell you to run into the the bottom elevator on the previous floor, because you get a slightly better line to getting into this room. I will slow this down because I can't keep up. And so what you'll do is, instead of running to this pillar, you will run diagonal up straight into this room, get through the text as fast as you can, and then run for the middle pillar instead of the first one, because these guys will be transitioning at the point that you're running across. And then so you'd be in the middle pillar here, and then you run straight for the center.
That looks so nerve-wracking.
Excuse me. So nervous it's causing me to cough. Anyway,
If you're talking, I can't hear you. There we go.
yeah. Oh, I muted myself for a second. So basically, like, yeah, Cloud will run to the middle pillar and then run straight across. The second run's a lot easier than the first. And then there'll be no guard when Barret gets here, so he can come straight across to the middle. Then when these guys transition, they move to the left and the middle gap. So you basically, Barret gets a clean shot. Tifa is the difficult one. She's the hardest part, walking, where Tifa needs to cross two sections in one guard transition. And I know, like, I use the music as a cue for it. The problem is, if you're gonna use free FPS, if you're staying on free FPS, I don't know what that cue is going to be for you. because your running animations are going to be faster if the music plays at the same speed.
There we
If
go.
that
I
makes
don't know why
sense.
my Discord keeps cutting out.
Oh, okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
You can now? Yeah. All right. So yeah, like, yeah, Tifa needs to run across 2 segments in one transition.
Right, right.
So I use the music as a cue. The problem is I don't know where that music cue is going to be for you when you're running on 3 FPS. It's like a duh, duh, and when it hits the duh, that's when I go. But because you're moving at a different frame rate, all your movements are different, like Cloud's running speeds and all that. These guards will transition faster, but the music plays at the same speed. So I don't know. I don't know what that cue is for you. You'd have to just go in and practice yourself to try and figure it out. Other than that, that's about it for that screen. Do you want to know the manipulation for getting the password? That is a little thing that you can just eliminate your guesses.
Yeah, how was that done again?
Yeah, okay, so we need to go back a bit. Okay, so on this screen...
Then after this, I'll have to go ahead and get set up. I'm supposed to be live in like 5 minutes, but I'm going to be a few minutes late.
Yeah, this will only take a few seconds to explain. And then you can go and set up and then I'll raid you. So when you get to about this point, open your menu. Open your menu when you get to about here. Why did it do that? Fucking video player. Open when you get to that point in the stairwell, open your menu. You need to take a look at your in-game clock and the amount of seconds that you're on, like whatever the seconds read on your in-game time is what when you enter the screen determines the password. There's 4 possible passwords. Do you know what a modulus function is?
No.
Okay, so it's a coding thing. Modulus is basically when you divide something by a certain number, the remainder of that division is the answer. So the way this decides the password is it divides the seconds in your in-game time by 4, and the remainder divides that, and the remainder determines what the password is. So if you divide the number of seconds in your in-game time by 4 and it's 0, the password is best. If it's 1, the password is... Hang on, let me take a look. Bomb. If the password is... if the remainder is 2, it's Marco, and if the remainder is 3, it's King. So for example, if you had, say, 16 seconds when you entered floor 62, 16 divided by is 4, remainder of 0, so the password would be best.
And that's when you go up the stairs from right here.
Yeah, so like basically you want to... The reason why you do the menu here is because once the second transitions, kind of like when you do Eufy manipulation, close the menu and run right. And you should...
Okay, so you go to the top of the stairs, open up the menu, and do you want to close it as the second clicks or right before?
As the second clicks is the most consistent.
Okay, so I want to visually, like for instance, divisible by 4. So I want to see 0, it'll be 07, and as soon as I see 08, close the menu, run.
Yeah, so like I'm not particularly fussy with whatever the password is. I just do whatever now. But if you just want to do a multiple of 4, that's a good way to start off, like learning the actual manipulation. Because yeah, if you have multiple of 4, the password's best, which is the first option, so you can just mash.
Right.
Otherwise, like I just do it normally, like whatever the next second is, I just go on the tick of the next second, do the math in my head, and then enter the password.
Gotcha.
Cool. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it. 60-second floor. I reckon we should come back and do this for another hour in a couple of weeks. What do you reckon?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Gives you a couple of weeks to pick up what you've learned.
To try.
Yeah, to try.